I want to quickly kind of like look over them pretty quick while we're talking about them, because you'll see right here, like we said, Sue had an insane an insane win rate, 26. That's pretty crazy when you really think about that. Her usage is, I don't know, her usage is fairly decent when you think of it. And like I said, these are all like, this is a rank over Lion. Like, I do not consider the overall win rates, like the other win rates. This I don't even look at that, because that doesn't matter. Because like what happens in like Herbivore, what happens in like Fox, that is not indicative of what is actually an important factor at the top of the at the kind of the top levels of play. I would, I guess. May has a pretty significant win rate as well, but I think I think the biggest thing here is that this is kind of new toy syndrome. So whenever a new character comes out, everyone wants to play her because she's new. And when when a lot of people want to play her, then this means that some of the best people are going to be playing her. So you've got really good players playing May. I don't know. I think that's kind of what I personally think, is that this is more a new toy syndrome than anything. Lennox, she's still lagging behind, not just her usage, but her win rate as well, lagging behind a little bit. So I guess that, like, it makes sense, because like I don't think anyone would deny that Lennox has been a little bit weak, has been considerably weaker ever since they changed her changed her stats. Excuse me. So these changes hopefully are going to make her a little bit more sustainable, a little bit more consistent with her healing. So I'm pretty cool with that. Yuki, still pretty strong, still pretty dominant. You'll see right there, 17% win rate, pretty high usage stats. Probably one of the best characters in the game right here. Nathapoon, let's just not talk about Nathapoon. Adriana, breaks my heart to see this. Breaks my heart to see this usage, because I am a huge fan of Adriana. But she's definitely lagging behind. I mean, the biggest thing is when you have usage stats this low, then the win rates are really not indicative of the actual character. So whenever you see win rates this low, I just disregard what they're saying right here. Adela, we get to see the character changes in action. So she had a lot of usage, obviously, because we had a lot of Adela mains prior to the changes. So obviously those characters would try to make Adela work after, but we see down to 12% as our win rate. Still obviously a lot of usage. So this could either be people are still trying to get used to Adela changes, or Adela is significantly weaker. Those are the two kind of options that we kind of have to work with. I don't know what I think. I think it's probably I think once people get used to her a little bit better, then I think her win rates are going to rise a little bit. I think her usage might dip off a little bit, but I think her win rates are going to rise once people get the hang of her. I think the same thing happened to Cicella a while ago when she was nerfed. She had a pretty significant dip in her win rates with her usage, but people kind of got the hang of her. And I mean, speaking of, like I said before, Cicella not really looking in the best situation here anyways. I've got a 10% win rate. I've got something like 30% third place, which is a pretty good third place ranking. Speaking of Lennox has a 40% third place rating. So characters like Cicella and Lennox have the stats, I guess, have the defensive stats to make it late game, but they don't have the offensive stats, I guess you could say, to take first place away from a character like Yuki or something like that, I guess. Based on kind of what we're looking at right here. Bernice, I said before, Dragon Bernices are extremely powerful. Fighting a Bernice and Dragon tier is one of the scariest things to have to face, and I think the win rates here speak for themselves. 17%. Obviously, the usage is very low, and I said before, low usage means that the stats don't really equate to the overall what the character can offer your average player. So I think if an average player picks up Bernice, they are not going to have a 17% win rate. Camilla's pretty good. I guess we're sitting around kind of an average-ish win rate of 15%. Average usage stats as well. Arda, interesting stats with Arda as well. 15% with actually a fairly good usage stats, which is I mean nothing too good, but like it's probably a little bit below. Yeah, it's below average usage stat. Like all these stats right here are below average, but they're not like insignificant usage, I would say. So I'm actually pretty surprised at that. The artist stats right there, 15. Shuichi is pretty cool. Shuichi has picked up a lot, I would say, in terms of usage, in terms of effectiveness. So that's really I really like seeing that. Shuichi getting what's deserved of him, so he's getting up to 17% win rate with a lot of usage. So these win rates here are significant. These are like the sample size is big enough to say that these win rates are a significant indicator of how they play, and that's really cool. So I'm a huge fan of Shuichi as well. Heart's looking pretty weak right now. If you look right there, the win rates are average. Sorry, excuse me. The usage rates are average, and we've got a very very low, very low win rate. Actually, a lower win rate than Jenny, which is kind of funny. So yeah, that's kind of embarrassing. Poor Heart. Kira, kind of one of the slept on characters. A lot of people like to poke fun at Kira for whatever reason, but Kira, honestly, she's not used just by specialists. You'll see right here, her usage is, I guess, slightly below average. I would say just slightly below average is her usage, but her win rates are pretty significant. So don't sleep on Kira. She's not like, if you see Kira in ranked, it's a bit different than seeing a Jenny in ranked. So if you see a Jenny in ranked, you can kind of laugh, but if you see a Kira in ranked, you can't just like sleep on the Kira. You know, you can't just sleep on. There's a lot of characters you just can't sleep on. You know, obviously her second ability is pretty terrible, but overall she's a lot better than a lot of people are giving her credit for. She's got a really good 3rd% win rate, which is pretty cool. She has a pretty significant, I would say, above average, maybe this might be around average, but I would say slightly above average win rate with 17%. So that's really cool. Dallin, very easy character to use, very easy character to get results with, 17%, very high usage rate, nothing crazy there. Sylvia, even with her changes, she's still getting pretty good results. You've got, I guess, slightly below average usage stats, and you've got a 16% win rate. And this is with people trying to get used to her. So I think she's still pretty powerful. So I'm liking this. Magnus has very low usage. His win rates fluctuate like up and down and up and down. Like every patch you read, his win rates fluctuate up and down. So I really don't. I really have a hard time taking any of Magnus's win rates seriously because they really fluctuate depending on who's playing the character at the time. So I don't really want to talk about this. Leon, Leon has insane usage as always. However, he's sticking around at a 15% win rate, which is admittedly pretty average if you want to talk about what they are. But again, you have to consider the amount of kind of people who are playing them. So you have a lot of people playing them. You have a lot of Lion players who are looking to get into the game. They say, hey, what's one of the easiest characters to play so I can get results? They look at a tier list. They ask some high tier players. And they learn from their research that Leon is very easy to play, very easy to get results with. So they pick up Leon. So you have a lot. I would say this statistic is skewed a little bit by the. I don't want to say the quality of the players. I don't, because that sounds like a dick thing to say, and I obviously don't have any evidence to support that. But looking at this, I think my biggest guess is I would guess that the win rates are skewed based on a lot of Lion players trying to get into the game. I think Leon has more Lion players than Leon and Hanwoo probably. I think Leon and Hanwoo have the most Lion players playing them, as opposed to any character. Like I think a lot of other characters have a lot of Dragon players, a lot of Bear players, a lot of Lion players, kind of spread out. But I think Leon has the most Lion tier players playing him as a character, and I think that really is going to be affecting his win rate. Obviously, Lion is going to be facing against other Lions. So it's not really anything too crazy, but I do think that it's definitely a skewed statistic, in my opinion. Again, I could be wrong. Isol is pretty interesting. He's very interesting, actually. He's got a pretty significant, slightly over average usage stats, I would say. His win rates is really nothing to really talk about. And ISOL is always very, very difficult to talk about because when you talk about ISOL, you have to consider the different playstyles of ISOL, and then you have to consider which playstyles are more effective than others, and then you have to realize that some playstyles that are less effective are going to be dragging down other playstyles that are more effective. So, I don't really know what to say about ISOL right here. He's got usage, but his win rates are kind of not that good. Barbara, not much usage, so this statistic is kind of null and void, I would say. I don't think having 12% win rate with Barbara means Barbara is bad. I think Barbara is I don't think she slept on. I think the community has kind of come to an understanding that a good Barbara player is, can be a very, very powerful player. But again, this amount of usage really doesn't indicate much about Barbara. Maybe she was on, I don't know, like the win rate doesn't really, the usage stats don't really give a accurate representation, I don't think, of Barbara, because I think Barbara is a lot better than people kind of realize. Kathy is another one. If you're good with Kathy, then you're going to be good as a player, but obviously you have to be good with the different masteries that you have available to you. If you really want to get user to her fullest extent, you really have to make use of those random stats. She's got a lot of usage, above average usage, very good, and a pretty exceptional, maybe not exceptional, but a really nice win rate of 16%, and 16% supported by the numbers that we're looking at right here in terms of win rates. That's really good. That's really nice. That's very, very nice. Alex is where he has always been. Alex sitting with pretty decent usage, pretty decent win rate, pretty decent overall. Everything. The reason he's not higher is kind of due to his skill, kind of the skill curve of his kind of skill versus, I guess, effectiveness or performance. So that's basically the thing. Skill floors, skill ceilings, stuff like that is kind of what's holding Alex back from a much higher win rate, I think. Because Alex is a great character. Alex is a great character. If you're a great Alex, then you are going to be doing very, very well. Heijin, this is another character whose win rates fluctuate up and down and up and down. We have kind of decidedly below average stats, but no, below average usage, excuse me, but very, very confusing win rates, I think, because like I said, Heijin, very, very much like Magnus, win rates are fluctuating up and down and up and down. So there was a few statistics a while ago where Heijin has like the highest win rates, and then there's statistics where Heijin has the lowest win rate, which is it this patch Cicella's 10.4? Yeah, I think she's the lowest win rate, which is kind of cool. So yeah, I don't really like to talk much about the Heijun win rates, just like I don't like to talk about the Magnus win rates, because they fluctuate. They fluctuate a lot. So I don't really want to talk about. Aya has a very interesting stat right here. We have a 21% win rate with a significant usage. So that means these win rates are fairly accurate. So this is very, very interesting. We have a pretty high win rate here, which is really, really cool. Seeing a gun character be as effective as this is really cool. Obviously, Bernice is pretty effective as well, but Bernice isn't effective to like any character who picks him up. Aya can be effective throughout the levels. You can have an effective Aya in Lion, you can have an effective Aya in Bear, and you can probably have a relatively effective Aya in Dragon to an extent. I don't want to talk too much about kind of that though, but I do think it's very, very interesting. We do have a very, very big leap right here, up to 21%. So that's super cool. People are sleeping on Aya, or people have been sleeping on Aya in the past, but 21% win rate, and like this is not an insignificant amount of usage. So this is really, really interesting to look at. Nadine, also, speaking of interesting, we've got stuff like Nadine with an 18% win rate, below average usage, but 18% win rate it's an interesting win rate. It's a better win rate than you would expect. That's above average. That's a good win rate. That's a very good win rate. So yeah, Nadine players are really pulling her, showing people what they can do with the Nadine, and I think that's really cool. Zukai is another character. We got an 18, basically 19% because it's 18.8 win rate. Very significant usage. Above average, I guess. Slightly above average usage. So it's very cool. We've got I don't think anyone really expected otherwise with Zukai, because Zukai is a powerful character. Always has been, even with any of the changes that has happened, he always has been a very, very powerful character, and he still is a powerful character, and we can see that. So this should put to rest any ideas that Zukai is bad, because he's not. He's very powerful. We've got a 19% win rate, and that's decidedly very good. JP, I'm not talking about JP. Jenny, I'm not talking about Jenny, because they're both garbage characters. I mean, you can argue that like we've got a 7.6%. We got a 7.6 point gain with Jenny. So if you want to argue that you can just like cockroach with Jenny because Play Dead saves you once, or I guess technically it save you twice a game. If you want to argue that, then I'm not going to argue you. Yeah, you can probably get into top 5 with Jenny. It's not like amazing, and like 34%. That's there's characters who have higher third place rates than her. 15%, that's really not anything too crazy. There's people with a lot higher second place rates as well. And obviously her first place is absolute garbage. Only really comparable to Hart and Hart Heijin are the kind of the main things that you can compare, and she has a higher win rate than Hart and Heijin. I mean, I don't think that's really indicative of um, a comparison between the characters. I don't think you can say Jenny is better than Hart. I think that's kind of ridiculous. I don't think anyone would agree with you. I think you're just trying to justify Jenny based off of the statistics. So yeah, I mean, obviously I am talking about them, but I'm just saying that Jenny and JP, their win rates, there's nothing really to say about them other than they're both garbage characters and they need tweaking. But they haven't had any tweaking, so I don't know. Anyways, moving on, Rosalio was interesting. Rosalio has, I feel like I've seen him fluctuate a little bit. I think he's a little bit overrated right now. If I had to say, I think Rosalio is fairly overrated right now. I mean, he's staying with 15%. He's staying with kind of an average win rate. Is staying with pretty average usage stats as well. But I think he's very overrated. I think people. I think this is kind of a little bit eye-opening because I think people expected Rosalio to have a much higher win rate than 15%. So I think this is kind of eye-opening because you kind of see. I mean, 15% is good. Don't get me wrong. 15% is pretty average, but it's probably even kind of above average to a certain extent. But it's definitely nothing. It's definitely not what people kind of. I think a lot of people think when they think Rosalio. I think people think Rosalio and they think he's like, oh, Rosalio is this god character, but he's very reliant on RNG. He's very reliant on a lot of things happening and kind of a lot of cogs fitting into place for him. Obviously, 15%, I'm not saying is bad, but I think it's eye-opening in the sense that he doesn't have a 17% win rate. He doesn't have an 18% win rate. He doesn't even have like a 20% or whatever. So it's interesting to see there. William, very high win rate, very high usage stats. William has always been good in the past. Very reliant on, very reliant on his stats though. The only kind of stepping stone to have to get used to William is you have to be good at throw. Throw is a little bit awkward to kind of get used to, so that's kind of the only stepping stone there. But his stats, very much kind of like Lennox on release. He was a stat stick. That's all you can really say about it. So I think these win rates are going to change very significantly the next time we see win rate statistics because of the nerfs to William this patch. These are going to be pretty significant. He's going to drop a lot. He's at about 17% right now. He's at a hell of a lot of usage, one of the highest used characters, which is really cool, and it really makes a lot of sense. So yeah, we're going to see that change a lot. Hanwoo is interesting as well because he has a lot of usage, and like I said before, Hanwoo and Leon probably have the highest amount of Lion players playing in them. So I think that kind of changes the statistic a little bit, but not really a crazy amount. I think 15% is probably an accurate win rate, honestly, overall for Hanwoo. I think 15% is a fairly accurate representation of what you can do with a Hanwoo. Hanwoo's not bad. Hanwoo's not insanely good. I would say he's kind of decisively average, and that is exactly where his win rate sits. So I think this kind of is an accurate representation. Zahir is interesting. We've got a pretty unfavorable win rate, sitting at about 13%, with the usage stats to back up this claim of 12%. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's strange. It's not really strange, but it's an interesting outlook on Zahir. Zahir is not really the most powerful character, so I mean, you can't really expect a whole heck of a lot. But he does have higher win rates than obviously characters like Hart or like Jenny. So yeah, that's kind of cool. Obviously though, it's not a win rate that you would write home about or anything like that. Zahir, moving on to Zahir. Zahir, one of the last kind of stab characters that you can really use a lot. If you want to compare, sorry, did I say Zahir? Fiora, one of the kind of last characters. And if you want to compare something like Fiora with about a 17% win rate, I think that is, and then Shuichi with about a 17% win rate, they're both fairly similar. Stat wise and just everything wise, they're both fairly similar in terms of the win rates right there. So that's pretty cool. They're probably two of the best stab characters right now if you want to just go with a main stab role as opposed to kind of, like, if you don't want to consider Camilo, I think Fiora, obviously Fiora and Shuichi are going to be the two best stab characters at the moment. And I say that because Sue is going through a pretty significant change, so I don't really want to factor her into this equation right here because, like I said, she's going through a pretty significant change. So um, I can't. I don't really want to put her in the mix and say stuff. And then May, again, I feel like she's kind of under new toy syndrome, so it's really hard to kind of judge her for me right now. So I like that Fiora still has a pretty good win rate. She's got a good win rate. I'm very happy with this win rate. She's got very good usage. A lot of people seem to not be a fan of Fiora. A lot of people seem to think that Fiora isn't really that good. So I really like that these usage stats and that these win rates are coming out to kind of show that Fiora still has a presence in this game. That's all I can really say about that. Jackie's an interesting character. She's very powerful in the lower ranks, so I think even in Lion she's pretty effective. She's much more effective in the lower ranks. If I had to guess, let's see if there's let's see how she is in. No, okay, never mind. Well, I guess going back to it. Yeah, I guess there's just more people playing in the higher rank. But anyways, she's much more effective in the lower ranks, I would say. But obviously, as you can see right here, she has a pretty significant win rate, so she has effectiveness in all ranks. So obviously, there's counterplay to Jackie. There's counterplay to Jackie as a character. So if you're playing against Jackie, you have to give her respect. Very much like a character like who did I say before? I don't know. There's another character that I said you can't just sleep on. I think it was Kira. Yeah, Kira. A lot of people kind of look down on Kira. A lot of people kind of not really look down on Jackie, but they look at Jackie as kind of a pub stomper as opposed to a character you can really ladder to the top of the ladder with. But you can see right here, she's pretty good. She's got some pretty good win rates. She's got a usage stat that 100% backs up this win rate. So this looks to me like a very accurate win rate. So people just have to give more respect to Jackie, I think. I think if Jackie gets fed, she's very hard to deal with. That's the biggest thing. Is if a Jackie gets fed, she's going to be very hard to deal with. So in a lot of games, it's not really up to you whether that Jackie gets fed. If someone else goes and feeds the Jackie, there's really nothing you can do about that. But it's actually really cool to see this this win rate right here, because this is a very cool win rate to look at. But that's basically all of them. Like you said, Sue's win rate and William's win rate are going to be dipping very soon, in my personal opinion. Magnus and Heijin, their win rates are fluctuating all the time. You can see Bernice is another character whose win rate fluctuates all the time because his usage isn't really that high oftentimes. But I think we've started to kind of stabilize around a little bit of a higher amount of people who use Bernice, and the people who use Bernice obviously are getting results with Bernice. But back in the day, Bernice's win rates used to fluctuate up and down, up and down. Like there was a time where he had like the highest win rate, or like one of the top 3 highest win rates, and then he was down to like the lowest win rate in the very next patch with no changes. So I think that in itself is an indicator that usage kind of has a large role to play when it comes to win rates. Characters like Heijin, characters like who's the other one? Yeah, I guess let's just stick with characters like Heijin. Characters like Heijin are fluctuating a lot, very much like Bernice did. So I don't think seeing Heijin at 10% means she's like the worst character in the game, because I definitely have my the finger that I want to point at who the worst character in the game is. But that's everything. I filmed this all as a one video between the patch notes and the statistics, but I'm most likely going to be splitting them up. If you enjoyed this type of video, kind of me trying to analyze statistics like this, because this is really the most enjoyable part of the game for me, is going over a lot of statistics, a lot of theory, a lot of stuff like that. So if you enjoyed it, let me know, because I certainly enjoy making videos like these. And I don't know, if people like them, then I might try to do a little bit more of them when we get more patch notes, more win rates. I might try to do a video specifically on the tier list. But yeah, that's I guess that's everything. I'll see you guys next time.